Every time an American soldier fires an M240 machine gun, they're utilizing a German design from 1934. Every time NATO forces implement their fire doctrine, they're following a German concept from 91 years ago. The MG34 didn't just revolutionize warfare, it invented a completely new military principle: the universal machine gun, the one-weapon-fits-all solution. And today, in 2025, every modern army worldwide employs this German concept. M60, M240, FN MAG, MG3, PKM, all are based on the MG34 from 1934. Operation Paperclip documents the systematic appropriation, but the technical lineage is clear. From Rheinmetall-Borsig in 1934 to US Marines in Ukraine 2025, the story of this weapon is the story of modern infantry doctrine, and it begins with a radical German idea. Imagine this. 1930. Every army in the world uses separate weapons for separate roles: light machine guns for mobile infantry, heavy machine guns for defensive positions, vehicle weapons for tanks and aircraft, anti-aircraft weapons for air defense, 4 different weapons, 4 different logistics chains, 4 different training programs, 4 different spare parts systems. The complexity was enormous, the costs astronomical. And German engineers at Rheinmetall-Borsig thought there has to be a better way. The question was simple. What if a single weapon could fulfill all roles? What if the same machine gun could function as a light infantry weapon on a bipod, as a heavy defensive weapon on a tripod, as a vehicle weapon with specialized mounts, and as an anti-aircraft weapon with an elevated mount? One rifle, universally adaptable. The universal machine gun concept was born. The technical problem was massive. To be truly universal, the weapon had to meet several conflicting requirements. Light enough for a soldier to carry and maneuver, but robust enough for sustained fire in defensive positions. Quick barrel changes for continuous fire without overheating, but precise enough for controlled bursts. Reliable under extreme conditions: desert, snow, mud, rain. Easy to maintain, easy to train, and producible in mass quantities. In 1930, Rheinmetall-Borsig began development, an engineering team led by Louis Stange. The goal was clear: a machine gun that replaces every other. 3 years of development, over 200 prototypes, thousands of test hours, extreme conditions, and in 1934, it was ready. The MG34. The specifications were unbelievable for the time. A fire rate of 900 rounds per minute. Caliber 7.92 by 57 millimeters Mauser, weight 12.1 kilograms with a bipod, barrel length 627 millimeters, a quick change barrel system, complete barrel swap in 6 seconds, bipod for a light roll, tripod for a heavy roll, mount for anti-aircraft use, vehicle mounts for tanks, belt feeding or drum magazine, all with the same weapon. But the ingenious innovation wasn't just the versatility, it was the system design. The MG34 had a quick change barrel mechanism that was revolutionary. Under fire, if the barrel overheated after 300 rounds of sustained fire, the gunner could change the barrel in seconds, no tools required. Simply unlock, hot barrel out, cold barrel in, lock, continue firing. This capability meant, theoretically, unlimited sustained fire capacity, as long as ammunition and spare barrels were available. The MG34 could fire continuously. The range was impressive. An effective range on a bipod of 800 meters, on a tripod 2,000 meters, with an optical sight 3,500 meters for indirect fire. For 1934, these numbers were astonishing. No other machine gun in the world combined such range with such versatility. The recoil system used a recoil-operated rotating bolt mechanism, technically elegant, reliable, and precise. The weapon could fire single shots, bursts, or fully automatic, all with the same trigger system. The operator had complete control over fire discipline. Production began in 1936. Mauser factories, Rheinmetall-Borsig, Steyr-Daimler-Puch, multiple factories. By 1945, over 300,000 units had been produced. And they armed not just infantry. They were on tanks, on aircraft, in bunkers, on anti-aircraft towers. Everywhere, one weapon, all roles. The universal machine gun concept worked, but what really shocked the Allies was not just the weapon itself. It was the doctrine around it. German military doctrine built entire infantry tactics around the MG34. The squad system was reorganized, not around riflemen, around the machine gun. The MG34 was the center of the fire team. Everything else supported it. A typical German infantry squad from 1939 to 1945 had 10 men. 2 men on the MG34, gunner and assistant, 6 men as riflemen. Their primary task was not fire support, it was security and ammunition transport for the MG34. The squad leader commanded, but the MG34 was the heart of the tactical unit. This was radically different from Allied doctrine. American and British squads were based on riflemen with machine guns as support. German squads were based on machine guns with riflemen as support. This philosophical difference had massive tactical implications. German squads could deliver sustained suppressive fire continuously and maneuver while the MG34 gave fire support. Allied squads had less fire density, less flexibility, and fought differently. The British Army recognized the problem early on. 1940, France. The German Blitzkrieg. British Expeditionary Force reports document German infantry fire density overwhelming. MG34 delivers sustained fire that British Bren guns cannot match. Recommendation, new doctrine required, but recommendations and implementation are different. The British had the Bren gun, a Czechoslovakian design, magazine-fed, 30 rounds, a fire rate of 500 rounds per minute. A good rifle for its role, but not universal, not a universal machine gun. It could not fulfill all roles like the MG34. The Americans had the Browning M1919, an excellent weapon, reliable, robust, but heavy, 15 kilograms, plus a tripod, plus ammunition, not portable for quick infantry maneuvers. Designed as a positional weapon, not as a universal system, the Soviets had different models: DP-28 light machine gun, disc magazine, SG-43 Goryunov heavy machine gun, belt-fed, 2 separate weapons, 2 separate roles, not universal. Only Germany had the universal machine gun, 1 weapon, all roles, and the tactical superiority was visible on the battlefield. North Africa, 1942. The British 8th Army fighting the Afrika Korps. British after-action reports document German MG34 positions deliver a volume of fire that our Bren sections cannot suppress. Coordinated MG34 crossfire patterns extremely effective. Our attacks suffer heavy losses due to sustained German machine gun fire. Eastern Front, 1943. Soviet reports similar. German machine gun nests are the primary tactical obstacle. MG34 fire discipline and sustained capability surpasses our DP-28. Recommendation: concentrated artillery fire before infantry assault is required to neutralize German MG positions. The Allies learned, if you attack German MG34 positions, you need overwhelming fire superiority, artillery, tanks, air support, or accept heavy losses. The MG34 changed battlefield calculations, but here's where it gets technically fascinating. The Allies had access to captured MG34s early in the war. France, 1940, tons of German equipment captured. MG34s were studied closely. Aberdeen Proving Ground, USA, Bovington, UK. Technical analysis teams disassembled the weapons, documented every mechanism, understood the design. A British Ordnance report from 1941 survives in the National Archives queue. Title: German MG34 Technical Evaluation. The document is fascinating. It analyzes precision, it measures rate of fire, it tests reliability, and the conclusion is clear. This weapon represents a significant advancement in machine gun design. The universal mount system is ingenious. The quick-change barrel system is highly effective. The weapon is suitable for multiple roles with minimal modification. Recommendation: consider similar design principles for future British development, but consider and implement are different. The British did not immediately develop an equivalent. Why? Several reasons. First, production. The MG34 was expensive and complex to produce. Precision machining required high-quality standards. In wartime, when mass production was the priority, simpler was cheaper. The British focused on Bren gun mass production. Second, doctrine change. To really exploit the MG34's capabilities, the entire infantry doctrine had to be reorganized. Squad structure, training, tactics, logistics. That was a massive undertaking during active warfare, easier to continue with existing systems. Third, and this is critical, the Allies won the war without a universal machine gun. They had overwhelming industrial capacity, overwhelming manpower, overwhelming artillery, overwhelming air power. They could overcome German tactical superiority with sheer mass. Why change the system if you're winning? But after the war, everything changed. 1945, Germany defeated. Allied troops occupying. Operation Paperclip begins. Not just for V-2 rockets and jet technology, also for weapon design. The MG34 and its successor, the MG42, were systematically studied. The U.S. Army Ordnance Department, 1946, starts a comprehensive analysis. Hundreds of captured MG34s and MG42s are tested. Technical documents from German factories are confiscated. German engineers are interrogated. The question was, can we reproduce this? Should we? The Soviets did the same thing. After the war, they dismantled entire German weapons factories, transported machines to the Soviet Union, took German technicians with them, studied every detail of the MG34 and MG42, and then designed their own versions. But the Americans were more systematic. They understood that the universal machine gun concept was fundamentally superior. The problem: how do you implement it? The answer came in the form of a new development program. 1947, the U.S. Army Ordnance starts the project for a new general-purpose machine gun. General purpose. That's the American translation of Einheitsmaschinengewehr, the universal machine gun. They took the German term, translated it, and made it their own doctrine. The design requirement document from 1947 is enlightening. It specifies, weapon must be capable of sustained automatic fire. Weapon must feature a quick-change barrel system. Weapon must be adaptable to bipod for light roll and tripod for heavy roll. Weapon must be suitable for vehicle mounting. Weight must not exceed 15 kilograms. Rate of fire, minimum 650 rounds per minute. Look at these requirements. Every single point comes directly from MG34 analysis. Quick change barrel, bipod-tripod adaptability, vehicle mounting. These are not random design decisions. These are German innovations, copied specification for specification. The development took over 10 years. Various prototypes, D44, T52, T161, each tested different mechanisms, but all based on the German universal machine gun concept. The problem was engineering precision. The MG34 had been designed with German precision machining, tight tolerances, high quality. The Americans wanted the same thing but cheaper to produce. 1957, the T161 was adopted as the M60, the first American general-purpose machine gun. And look at the design, the quick-change barrel system directly from the MG42, the gas-operated mechanism, combined German and American elements, the bipod-tripod system, pure MG34 concept. The belt feeding, German disintegrating belt technology. An ordnance engineer who worked on the M60 project later said in an interview in 1986, "We were essentially building an American MG42. We studied the German weapon extensively. We understood it was the most advanced machine gun design in existence. Our job was to replicate that capability using American production methods and chambered in 7.62 NATO. That's remarkably honest. We were essentially building an American MG42. The technical lineage is direct. MG34 concept, 1934, to MG42 refinement, 1941, to M60 American implementation, 1957, 23 years from German innovation to American adoption. But here's where it gets interesting. The M60 had problems, reliability issues. The barrel change mechanism was complicated. If the barrel overheated and the operator tried to change it too quickly, the gas system could be damaged. The bipod was mounted on the barrel. This meant every time you changed the barrel, you lost the bipod. Vietnam War soldiers hated that. The irony. The Americans were trying to improve the German design, make it cheaper, easier to produce, and in doing so, they introduced problems the original MG34 didn't have. The German over-engineering was actually necessary for reliability. But despite the problems, the M60 established the principle. America now had a general-purpose machine gun. The doctrine changed. U.S. Army infantry squads were reorganized around the M60. Just like German squads were organized around the MG34, the fire team concept became standard. Machine gunner plus assistant plus rifleman for security and ammo. German doctrine from 1939 became U.S. Army doctrine in Vietnam. The French and Belgians did it differently. FN Herstal in Belgium developed the FN MAG, Mitrailleuse d'appui général. Again, general-purpose machine gun in French. Same concept, same German roots. The MAG was adopted in 1958. The FN MAG was technically superior to the M60. More reliable, more robust, better designed, and interestingly, closer to the original German design. The bipod was mounted on the receiver, not the barrel. That meant barrel changes retained the bipod. The gas system was simpler. Fewer parts, fewer failure points. Over 30 NATO countries adopted the FN MAG, and in 1977, even the US Marines adopted it as the M240. The US Army followed later. Today, the M240 is the standard US military general-purpose machine gun, replacing the M60. And guess where the design heritage comes from? MG34 concept via FN MAG. The technical evolution is fascinating. MG34, 1934, defines the universal machine gun. MG42, 1941, refines it. War's End, 1945, Allies capture and study. FN MAG, 1958, implements the concept with Belgian engineering. M60, 1957, implements it with American engineering. M240, 1977. America adopts the Belgian version, which is closer to the German original. 90 years later, the M240 is still in service. Concept unchanged. German innovation from 1934, and it's not just America, the Germans themselves, after rearmament. Bundeswehr 1955. What did they adopt? MG3. Literally the MG42 rechambered for 7.62 NATO. Same weapon, new caliber. Germany is still using their own 1941 technology, 70 years later. The Soviets, PKM General Purpose Machine Gun, adopted 1967, gas-operated, belt-fed. Quick-change barrel, bipod-tripod adaptability, every feature directly copied from the German universal machine gun concept. The Soviets call it different, but the capability is identical. China, Type 80 series, general purpose machine gun, based on the Soviet PKM, that's based on the German concept. Technology transfer through 2 generations. But the root is 1934 Rheinmetall Borsig, Israel, FN Mag produced under license as the Negev. South Africa, Vector SS-77 based on the MG3 design, India, INSAS LMG based on universal machine gun principles. The list goes on. Over 100 countries worldwide use general-purpose machine guns based on the MG34 concept. Look at modern battlefield footage. Ukraine 2022 to 2025. NATO trained Ukrainian forces, M240 machine guns in defensive positions. Squad tactics based on the fire team concept. Machine gunner plus assistant. Sustained suppressive fire while maneuver elements move. That's German doctrine from 1939, applied in Ukraine 2025, 81 years later. Unchanged in fundamentals. Russian forces, PKM machine guns, based on the German concept via Soviet copy. Both sides are using universal machine gun principles, invented by Germany 1934. That's the ultimate legacy. Not only was the weapon copied, the entire doctrine. The whole way modern infantry fights, that comes from the MG34. Think about it, every military conflict since 1945, Korea, Vietnam, Falklands, Gulf War 1991, Afghanistan, Iraq, Syria, Ukraine, all use general-purpose machine gun doctrine, all based on the German universal machine gun concept from 1934. The technical lineage is undeniable. Let me summarize it. 1934, Rheinmetall Borsig develops the MG34. The world's first true general-purpose machine gun, defines the universal machine gun concept, universally adaptable, light roll on bipod, heavy roll on tripod, vehicle mounting, anti-aircraft, one weapon, all rolls, quick change barrel for sustained fire, 900 rounds per minute, 12 kilograms, revolutionary. The German military reorganizes its entire infantry doctrine around the MG34, squad based on machine gun, not rifleman. The machine gunner is the core of the fire team. Everything else supports sustained suppressive fire plus maneuver. These tactics dominate the battlefield 1939 to 1945. Allies study captured MG34s starting in 1940. Aberdeen, Bovington. Technical reports document its superiority. But implementation is delayed due to war priorities. After 1945, everything changes. Operation Paperclip. Systematic appropriation of German military technology, MG34 and MG42 designs are studied intensively. 1947, the US Army starts GPMG development, general purpose machine gun, direct translation of Einheitsmaschinengewehr, requirements copy MG34 specs, quick change barrel, bipod-tripod, sustained fire, vehicle mount, 1957, the M60 is adopted, the first American GPMG, design heritage directly from the MG42, the US. Army reorganizes squads, German doctrine becomes American doctrine, 1958. The FN MAG is developed in Belgium, closer to the German original than the M60. Over 30 countries adopt it. 1977. The US Marines adopt it as the M240. Later, the US Army does too. The M240 replaces the M60. Germany itself uses the MG3, rechambered MG42 for NATO 7.62, their own weapon from 1941, still in service. The Soviets developed the PKM, 1967, all features from the German concept, belt-fed, quick-change barrel, bipod, tripod. China copies it for the Type 80, the Warsaw Pact, completely equipped with weapons based on German design. NATO, completely equipped with weapons based on German design, both sides of the Cold War, utilizing German innovation from 1934, Ukraine, 2022 to 2025. The M240 and the PKM facing off against each other, both based on the MG34 concept, German technology versus German technology. 91 years after the original innovation, the concept unchanged. That is legacy. Let's compare the specs. Technical analysis. The MG34, 1934. Rate of fire, 900 rounds per minute. Weight, 12.1 kilograms. Caliber, 7.92 Mauser. Effective range, 800 meters in the light roll, 2,000 meters in the heavy roll. Quick change barrel, 6 seconds. Belt feeding, 50 or 250 round belts. The M60, 1957. Rate of fire, 550 rounds per minute. Weight, 10.5 kilograms, without ammo. Caliber, 7.62 NATO. Effective range, 1,100 meters. Barrel change, complicated. Belt feeding, disintegrating belt. Reliability. Problems in Vietnam. The M240, 1977, rate of fire, 650 to 950 rounds per minute. Weight, 12.5 kilograms. Caliber, 7.62 NATO. Effective range, 1,800 meters. Quick change barrel, improved, extremely reliable. Over 30 NATO countries in service. Standard US military, 2025. The MG3, 1959, Bundeswehr, rate of fire, 1,200 rounds per minute. Weight, 11.5 kilograms. Caliber, 7.62 NATO. Effective range, 1,200 meters. Quick change barrel, excellent, literally. A rechambered MG42, still in Bundeswehr service. 2025, 66 years of continuous service. German quality, proven. The PKM, 1967, Soviet Union. Rate of fire, 650 rounds per minute. Weight, 7.5 kilograms. Caliber, 7.62 Russian. Effective range, 1,500 meters. Barrel change system, effective, extremely reliable. Over 50 countries, worldwide. Standard Russian forces, 2025. Look at the numbers, all within similar parameters, all fulfilling the same role, all utilizing the same conceptual basis. The universal machine gun, universal GPMG, German innovation, global adoption. The production numbers are astounding. MG34, over 300,000 produced, 1936 to 1945. MG42, over 400,000 produced, 1941 to 1945. M60, over 200,000 produced, 1957 to 19,000. FN MAG, over 200,000 produced, 1958 to today. M240, over 40,000 produced, 1977 to today. MG3, over 100,000 produced, 1959 to today. PKM, over 1 million produced, 1967 to today. and those are conservative estimates. In total, over 2 million general-purpose machine guns produced worldwide, based on the MG34 concept, 2 million weapons, all tracing their technical lineage back to Rheinmetall-Borsig, 1934. That is an unprecedented technological legacy. This technology isn't just history, it's active. Ukraine, 2025, uses the M240. The Bundeswehr uses the MG3. US forces globally use the M240. Russian forces use the PKM. Chinese forces use the Type 80. Indian forces use FN MAG variants. This isn't a museum piece. This is frontline military equipment. Today, 91 years after the original innovation, the concept unchanged. Because the concept was optimal. Think about the irony. Germany lost World War II. But the German universal machine gun concept dominates global military doctrine for 90 years. Every NATO army uses a GPMG based on German design. Every formerly Warsaw Pact army uses a GPMG based on German design. Even countries that never had contact with Germany use weapons based on MG34 principles via technology transfer. The Bundeswehr pays billions for military equipment, including the MG3, which is literally a rechambered MG42. Germany is paying for its own technology from 1941. America pays billions for M240 production and maintenance. The Belgian FN MAG design is based on the German concept. No royalties, no license fees. Germany invented it. The world took it, and it's still using it. Operation Paperclip is often discussed in the context of rockets and jets. Werner von Braun and the V2, the Messerschmitt Me 262. But weapons technology was just as systematically transferred. MG34 and MG42 technical manuals were confiscated, German ordnance engineers were recruited, production methods were studied, and then implemented in American and Soviet designs. There's a document in the National Archives in Washington, D.C., classified until 1975. Title: Technical Intelligence Report, German Small Arms Development, 1945. The document is 128 pages. It analyzes every German weapon captured at the end of the war. The MG34 and MG42 get 40 pages, detailed technical drawings, mechanism explanations, ammunition feed systems, barrel change procedures, reliability testing results, production methods, everything documented, everything used for American weapons development. The Soviets had similar documents. After the collapse of the Soviet Union, 1991, some archives were opened. Russian military historians found NKVD technical reports from 1945. Soviet troops confiscated German weapons factories, Mauser, Rheinmetall, Walther. They transported complete production lines to the Soviet Union. German technicians were forced to go along, and Soviet weapons design of the next 20 years was based heavily on captured German technology. The PKM is a perfect example, officially designed by Mikhail Kalashnikov. But look at the design. Gas-operated system, similar to the MG42 belt feed mechanism, derivative of German design, quick-change barrel concept, directly from the MG34. Kalashnikov was a brilliant designer, but he didn't work in a vacuum. He had access to captured German weapons, he had access to German technical manuals, and his designs show clear influence. That's not criticism. That's how technology works. Good ideas get copied, improved, adapted. The MG34 was a revolutionary innovation. Everyone who came after built upon it. Some designs were better. The FN MAG is arguably superior to the M60 because it stays closer to the German original. The MG3 is basically a perfected MG42, but all acknowledge the German roots. The technical lineage is clear. The geopolitical implication is fascinating. The Cold War, NATO versus the Warsaw Pact. Both sides equipped with general-purpose machine guns based on the German concept. If NATO and Warsaw Pact forces had ever come into direct conflict, both sides would have been using weapons doctrine invented by Germany 20 years earlier. German technology on both sides. That is the ultimate irony. And now Ukraine. NATO supplied M240s against Russian PKMs, both based on the MG34 concept. History repeats itself, not as tragedy or farce, but as proof that good engineering transcends politics. The MG34 concept was so optimal that both sides of every ideological conflict adopted it. What makes the universal machine gun concept so enduringly successful? Why hasn't the fundamental design changed in 91 years? The answer is in physics. Sustained automatic fire requires certain features: a heavy barrel for heat dissipation, a quick change system for continuous operation, belt feed for high ammunition capacity, a bipod for portability, a tripod for stability. These requirements are not ideological, they are physical, and the MG34 solved these requirements optimally for the technology level of the time. Modern materials are better. CNC machining is more precise, but the fundamental concept remains optimal. Imagine an infantry squad without a GPMG, only riflemen, no sustained suppressive fire, no ability to pin down the enemy during a maneuver, no heavy fire support. That was the pre-MG34 reality for many armies. German innovation recognized that the machine gun should be the center of the squad, not support, center. And that recognition revolutionized infantry warfare. Every modern army follows this principle now. NATO Infantry Doctrine 2025. The fire team concept. Squad leader. 2 fire teams. Each fire team has a machine gunner with an M240 or equivalent, an assistant gunner, rifleman for security and ammo transport. That is exactly the German squad structure from 1939, literally unchanged in fundamentals. The names are American, the weapon is American or Belgian produced, but the doctrine is German. Rheinmetall Borsig, 1934. The training manuals are revealing. U.S. Army FM 7-8 Field Manual, the Infantry Rifle Platoon and Squad, published 2009. The latest version read the machine gun employment section. Quote, "The machine gun is the basis of the fire team. All other team members support the machine gunner. The machine gun provides sustained suppressive fire to enable maneuver." That is, word for word, German MG34 doctrine. An American manual, a German philosophy. 80 years later, these technological truths are not just military history, they are active reality. Every soldier who fires an M240, every Marine who carries an FN mag, every Bundeswehr soldier who operates an MG3, they are using German innovation from 91 years ago. They are following German doctrine developed for the MG34, and most don't even know it. The history has been forgotten, but the technology remains. If you appreciate this technical documentation, if you want to understand how modern warfare really works, if you want to recognize the true technological lineages, support this channel. Super thanks allows me more research, more archive access, more in-depth technical analysis. These stories must be told. The truth must be preserved, not for glorification, but for understanding. Technology has no nationality, but innovation should be recognized. So now you understand. The MG34 wasn't just a weapon, it was a paradigm shift. It invented a completely new military concept, the universal machine gun, the general-purpose machine gun. universally adaptable. And that concept has dominated global military equipment for 91 years. The M60, the M240, the FN MAG, the MG3, the PKM, the Type 80, the Negev, all descendants of the MG34, all based on German innovation from 1934, all proving that brilliant engineering transcends time and politics. The next time you see footage from Ukraine, or Afghanistan, or Iraq, or any modern conflict, look at the machine guns, the M240, the PKM, the MG3. And remember Rheinmetall-Borsig, 1934, Louis Stange's engineering team. They invented that. They revolutionized infantry warfare. And 91 years later, the whole world is still using their concept. Unchanged in fundamentals, that is technological immortality. Germany lost the war, but German universal machine gun doctrine won the future. Every NATO army is proof. Every modern military conflict is a demonstration. The MG34 concept was so optimal that even the victors copied it, systematically, completely, and are using it today. That's not propaganda. That's documented technical reality. Archives prove it. Weapon specs prove it. Military manuals prove it. The truth is in the details. So final question, is this theft or evolution? America captured German technology and developed the M60 and M240. The Soviet Union captured German technology and developed the PKM. Is that systematic appropriation or natural technological progression? The answer is both. Operation Paperclip was systematic, but technology transfer is also how civilization advances. Good ideas spread. The problem is when the original innovation is not recognized, when history is rewritten, when the German engineers who invented the universal machine gun concept are forgotten while their innovation dominates globally. My opinion? Technical truth must be preserved. The MG34 invented the GPMG concept. The M240 and all modern descendants are based on it. That is fact. Not opinion, not nationalistic, simply technical reality, and that reality should be understood, especially by the soldiers who use these weapons. They should know the design heritage, they should understand the innovation lineage. From 1934 Rheinmetall-Borsig to 2025 battlefield Ukraine. 91 years. One conceptual lineage. German innovation. Global adoption, that is the story. Share your thoughts in the comments. Did you know that the M240 is based on the MG34 concept? Did you know that every NATO GPMG doctrine comes from German innovation in 1934? What other military technology has such an enduring legacy? Let's discuss. This story is too important to forget.